Hello, everyone. Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we looked at Judges chapter 4. And in Judges 4 is the story of Deborah, the judge. So I wanted to look at a specific judge, and I think Deborah is a good one to look at because on Sunday we looked at the negative part of the book of Judges, which is kind of the continual and ultimate descent of Israel into sin, which is capped with that story of the Levite and his concubine at the very end of the book of Judges. But before that, you do have people who are leading Israel effectively, but you also start to see the wheels come off. And that's really evident in the story of Deborah, which is pretty early in the book, right? So this is a cycle that is already starting to appear. In fact, if you were to look at Judges 4, at the very first verse, you're going to see one of the cycle markers in Judges, which is the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died. And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. So this idea is what that means, did what was evil, is they began worshiping other gods. And of course, that comes along with lots of evil and bad practices. And so what happens is, okay, they're going to do these bad things. God gives them over to someone for judgment. In this case, it's this guy named Jabin. And this story involves actually mostly his general Sisera. Sisera is an interesting name. It's not a Hebrew name. So this is probably someone from another place. I'm sure that there's scholars who debate where that is. That's above my pay grade. But all I know is he's probably kind of a foreign general that's brought in to fight. And he does quite well, right? Jabin also has these 900 chariots, iron chariots. These you can see as kind of almost super weapons of the ancient world. They don't seem very impressive to us now with our tanks and ICBMs and all these other sort of things our drones or whatever. But if you put yourself in the stance of a Hebrew guy who, probably the average height was like 5'2" or 5'3" or something like that, and you see a big iron thing coming at you pulled by horses and traveling at, I don't know, what do horses run, 20 miles per hour maybe. That's gonna hurt, right? That'll kill you. And so these are pretty fearsome weapons of war that this king has. And so anyway, they're fighting and they defeat the Israelites and they kind of are oppressing them and things like that. And so God raises up Deborah, and Deborah is a prophetess and judge. And what's really interesting is she's the only kind of named prophet and judge in my reckoning, anyway, who is both of those things, and the only woman one, besides Moses and Samuel, which is kind of interesting, right? Because Moses is very much maybe the prototype of what a judge should be, and Samuel is the last judge and also one of the best. We're going to get to his story in a few weeks, right, with the books of First and Second Samuel. So you have these people around her who are impressive, and Deborah is certainly in that vein. And you'll see here she continually calls the Israelites to trust in the Lord, specifically Barak, who's this military general that she's going to be using to fight Jabin and Sisera. Well, I should say God is going to be using. Although Barak really doesn't like that idea. So you'll notice as you read this thing, he continually tries to get out of it, even though Deborah says something in the lines of what Moses and Joshua said, which is that God has already given them into your hands. And but Barak doesn't really have the faith to trust that, and because of that, the glory of being able to kill Sisera is given to somebody else. But anyway, they go out and they're about to fight, but Barak doesn't want to. He's kind of scared to do it. So Deborah, who wasn't planning on going, is asked by Barak to go, and so she goes, and she has to be the one to encourage him to actually engage the enemy in battle. And when that happens, it says that the Lord, confuses their chariots. And there's a song after this. We didn't read this today, but if you want to, you can read the song of Barak and Deborah. That's chapter 5. And in there, it implies the weather had something to do with it. So God causes some miracle to happen that throws the chariots into confusion, right? Because they're horses and things like that. And it allows the Israelites to gain the upper hand, and they completely wipe out the army. And then Sisera has to flee on foot. And Sisera arrives at this one guy's tent, Heber, who's not there, it seems. And we're just introduced to this guy a little bit in the narrative, and he doesn't really matter at all. What actually matters is his wife, a woman called Jael, right? And she it basically tricks Sisera into staying there. He wants to stay there. He's given hospitality, and then she kind of turns back on him, does things to help him fall asleep, and then stabs him through the head with a tent peg, right? The interesting thing about this is like this is not maybe the most honorable or worthy way of felling an enemy, right? But this is kind of the way that the Book of Judges works. Remember, I talked about it kind of being like a western. People are not always, maybe the most honorable in the way that they kind of go about doing the things that they're doing. In any case, it's Yale who gets the credit for killing Barak, not sorry, killing Sisera, not Barak. And so all of that kind of ends up with this story being that they defeat Jabin and they're able to destroy him and his kingdom and push them away. And they go back to being in a state where they're worshiping the Lord. But that is not going to last very long. If you just go a few chapters later, right, into chapter 6, after Deborah is dead, the people again do what is bad in the sight of the Lord. So, not great. Bad behavior, but you can see that there are positive points here. There are leaders like Deborah who are pushing the people to do the right thing, but you can also see in characters like Barak how already there's this worry about, is the Lord really going to fight for us? And you can see the wheels of, oh, maybe the idolatry and stuff already begin to form, and what people are already falling into. So that's what we looked at today. I hope that was interesting to you. I will see you tomorrow for an episode of a new thing. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Peace out.